Hey everybody. Today we're going to talk about music theory, and that's something that I haven't talked about myself on this channel before. I realized recently that it's something that's really missing from a lot of electronic music producers' repertoire. We spend a lot of time on sound design and learning plugins and all this technical stuff, and sometimes forget that it's all playing notes and chords, and there's music and there's a language to that music. And so I want to do a very simple tutorial today on how to write better chord progressions. And the techniques I'm going to be showing are quite rudimentary for somebody who's studied music theory. So if you know music theory already, this stuff's going to be like, duh, obviously. But I've realized by looking at music, even prominent music by some A-circuit touring well-known producers, they're making mistakes that cause their music to sound not as good as its potential. And so I'm going to show you a couple very simple, very rudimentary things today that in a couple of minutes are going to dramatically improve your ability to write chord progressions. So let's get into it. Let me start off by showing you where we're headed. So what I have here is a 4-bar chord progression from one of my own songs that I've completed using these techniques. So check it out. So this chord progression is written in F Lydian, which is a major mode. It's very similar to the F major scale, but instead of having a B flat, it has a B natural. So it's actually only white notes. There's no sharps and flats. It's all the white notes from F to F, which makes it a very easy mode to teach in. So let's go back up a couple steps now. This is the finished chord progression. I'm going to take you guys to the very beginning. A great place to start for writing your first chord progression is using triads. Triads are the simplest form of chords. They're a 3-note chord. If you don't have 3 notes and you only have 2 notes, you don't have a chord. You only have an interval. So the triad is the most basic form of chord. And honestly, in electronic dance music, you can do so much with triads. It doesn't need to get more complicated than that. And the way you build a triad is you play a note, you skip a note, you play a note, you skip a note, and you play a note in the scale. So we have F, we skip G, we play A, we skip B, we play C. So that is known as the F major triad. And you can play these other triads that are all in that same key signature. So I have this initial chord progression, which is how I've seen most people compose their chords, is they're playing all the right notes and they compose chords using triads that are made from whatever mode or key signature they're playing in. So here's a typical starting point that I would see most people compose chord progressions. So there's nothing inherently wrong with this. You're not playing wrong notes. You're using chords. That's great. But it sounds really amateur. And there's a lot more you can do with just a couple of extra minutes. Unfortunately, this is where most people in electronic music stop. And I've literally looked at chart-topping songs from major producers, extracted the chords, and looked at them, and this is what they look like. So let me show you now what's possible using a technique called voice leading. Voice leading is a technique of creating better flowing chord progressions by using a common note that ties one chord to another chord. So let's take a look at what we have and why it might sound amateur. So we have the F major triad going into a G major triad, and you can see all the notes in the G major triad are completely different from the F major triad. And again, as we go down to the D minor triad, we have all new notes again. And then again, as we go back to the G major triad. So there's no notes that are linking between the two. So somebody might say, if they don't have very much experience in music theory, why don't we just take the D and bring it down? And there's actually a better way of doing that. So let me show you. We're going to go down to this next MIDI clip where I've presented this new technique. So in this one labeled voice leading, we actually have different chords. So instead of going from the F major to, what did we have up here? A G major, we're instead going from an F major to a C major triad. So now you can see we've got a C up here and we've got a C down here. So there's a linking note. And it also fixes our problem from going into the G major triad in the third chord, because the G on top links with the G in the G major triad. And then of course that links through with this pattern. So let's listen to this. This isn't our end result, there's more to do, but this is an improvement. So let's check it out. Let's compare those back and forth now. Here's the initial chord progression with no voice leading. And the one with voice leading. So even though both of those are technically correct in that they're not playing wrong notes, one flows a lot better than the other. Now let's check out how to improve this even further. What helps a chord progression to flow even better is to take those common notes that we're using for voice leading and to put them in the same place in the chord. So right now you can see our common note is the C, and the C is on top in the F major triad, and the C is on the bottom in the C major triad. So what I'm going to do is take that C and I'm going to put it on top. And let's listen to how that sounds. Okay, let's put it back to where it was. And put it back. So what that's doing is using a technique called inversions. It's inverting the chord. So a triad has two inversions to it. You can take the notes, and you're still going to play the same notes, you're just going to rearrange the order that they play in. So with the C major triad, this is what's called root position. So it's a C major triad, and the bass note, the bottom note of the chord, is the root note. It's the C. But if we take the C and we put it up an octave, we put it up on top, it's still a C major triad. It's not a different type of triad, but it is now called an inverted triad. And this is what's called first inversion. And sometimes they're also called slash chords, because how the chord symbol looks is this will be C maj slash E, indicating that it's a C major triad, but the bass note of the chord is actually E. So C maj slash E would be the chord symbol. And because triads have three notes, there's actually another inversion. This is called second inversion, where we take the E and put it on top. So same notes again. We have the C, the E, and the G, but they're being played in a different order. So this is what's called second inversion, and the chord symbol for this would look like C maj slash G. So you know it's a C major triad, and the bottom or the bass note is G. That's where you start. So let's look at the chord progression fixed with proper inversions. So what we've done is we've left the original F major chord in root position, so it's stock. But we've inverted the C major triad and the D major triad. So the C major triad has been inverted into first inversion, so C major slash E, starting on the E, which would normally be the second note in the triad. And then the G major triad has been inverted into second inversion. So it's G maj slash D, meaning that it's starting on the D, D is the bass note, and it's still a G major triad, so it's in second inversion. So now let's A-B between our initial chord progression and this inverted one. Here's where we started. And here's where we are now. So it sounds a lot better, it's flowing a lot better, but I have more to do. And those of you who have been quite astute will actually notice something here. I'm going to point it out. The last chord here is the G major / D. And because this chord progression is designed to loop, you also have to check the end of your chord progression leading back into the beginning of your chord progression. And if you pay close attention, you'll see that we actually have no common notes between the G major triad and the F, and that's because they're adjacent to each other. F is next to G, so there can be no common notes if you're playing a note, skipping a note, playing a note, skipping a note, playing a note. So we have an issue at the very end here. So how do you solve that and create voice leading when you have the end of a chord progression that is the 2 chord starting on the G, so that's the second triad, and going back into the 1 chord, which is the F major? Now that's actually going to be another video because we're going to use a special type of chord called a sus chord to solve that. And I'm going to be doing a small playlist of videos on music theory, and that will be video number 2. So make sure you stay tuned. If you like what we've covered here today and you feel like your music could benefit from a deeper understanding of music theory, then come check out Warp Academy and the course that we've done on music theory oriented for electronic musicians. It's taught by a wonderful professional who's been a music theory teacher for years. His name's Michael Miracle, and he has a full course on music theory that covers triads, everything I talked about here, and far, far beyond. So if you want to do a self-study program where you can go at your own pace and really up your game in music, then click the link in the vid and come back and check it out. And I hope you guys enjoyed what we covered here today. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel to stay fresh on all of our updates. And thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys feel creative and inspired with your music after this, and I hope you write some tunes. Take it easy.